The age change test is going to look for activity where you have a older invoice that's being credited out of the system, and then that is being replaced by a new invoice with a newer date. And we're going to be joining the files together and looking for situations where it's the same customer number and the same amount of that invoice, and that added together creates this key join field that then is joined upon for purposes of this test. So this is a little bit easier to see in live action, so we're going to take a look at that. But I did want to note that this was based on an audit that was completed where I identified a situation where people were changing the age dates of invoices by crediting out old invoices and re-invoicing them, with a new invoice number, new invoice date, but for that old receivable. So again, it was done to make the aging look a lot better, to not have as bad of a collectible or uncollectible situation, and allowance for doubtful accounts was not as high because it didn't look that bad on the surface. However, when you really dug into it, you realized that there was a lot of movement. This also can detect a fraudulent situation because fraudulent sales tend to get strung out there as accounts receivable, and then that accounts receivable gets very old and hence something that needs to be credited out and reapplied if people want to kind of keep that hidden. So again, let's jump into ACL and go from there. Jumping into ACL, we're now going to run the age change test. We're going to select the open invoice file, invoice date field, customer number field, customer name field, which is customer number, the invoice amount field, and the check or payment date, which we're going to use as the paid date field. Select OK. We're going to select 1998-0301. And what I'm saying here is that everything after that date is going to be considered current. Anything prior is considered old activity. And I just know from this file that that is a good date to put in. Ran through the test and brings up this age diff activity detail. Notice, the amounts are not that much, but what's interesting is we have same product, same customer, price adjustment debit. It's kind of interesting. We have different invoice numbers being listed. Again, a more new invoice number being listed for an old credit being processed against that customer account. Same thing is true with the others. And again, that is doing exactly what we wanted. Jumping into the script itself, taking this age change test here, we can then take a look at this dialog box here. And this is where we're entering in the year, month, day. That is this cutoff D variable. And again, I put the default text there so people know to enter it in as year, month, day. And then what I'm doing is I'm creating a key join field, and I'm all trimming the customer number plus a little kind of blank space or underscore there, followed by the invoice amount that I am trimming, but also calculating the absolute value of that amount and a string of that amount as well. So this is kind of our join field that we're going to be using as part of this test. I then calculate an age date by using the CTOD function, character to date, using the cutoff date, and then changing it to year, month, day, date. And then in the summarize command, this will make a lot more sense now. We're first looking for situations where the invoice amount is less than 0, the paid date of that invoice is 0, which is to put in a 0 date, you put in 1900-0101, and this character right here is actually a backward. It's actually on a US keyboard. It's where the tilde is, and it's to the left of the number 1 key. So you have a tilde, and it's kind of like a backward apostrophe. And that pay date would then recognize as a date. So that is 0 date. The invoice date is less than the age date, so 1998-0301, and the invoice amount is less than 0. So we pull all those out, and then we pull out all the other ones that are greater than 0, greater than the age date, so they're more current, but also have not been paid, and we join those together to create this age difference activity sum. And in this case, we really want to just look for situations where there's a match on the absolute value of amount. The absolute value amount, positive and negative, again, it doesn't matter, it becomes all positive. And then that key join field test of the negative file that's created in this summarize command and the positive file here are joined together into this final file called age diff activity sum. So now that we look at that file again, you can notice again that the credits are all prior and the debits are all after our cutoff date of March 1st, 1998.